got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Welcome to New Money, where imagination meets creativity and technology, with your host, Lady J.
This is the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Good morning, and welcome to TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. You are now in touch with the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is Radio the Way It Should Be Heard. Thank you for listening. Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are, all over and around the globe. We certainly do welcome you to the greatest hours in internet radio. That is the compensatory concept. Again, thank you for listening. Today, we will attempt to get into the second installment of the fifth area of people activity, the law, with Mr. Fuller. He also will answer your questions off topic. We will do Gmails. As a matter of fact, you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. But you can also call in at 1-877-932-9766. We always have new people that are listening to the show. And if you are new, why don't you listen first to get a rhythm or flow of how the show goes, and then you can ask your questions. And while you're doing that, what would help is if you purchased a book, The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, in which Mr. Fuller wrote. Is simply a compensatory counter-racist code guide, and he has a revised, expanded edition out. Mr. Fuller, before we go into the questions, good morning, and how are you? And could you speak or address your book? Hello, Mr.
Hello, I can barely hear you. Oh. It's extremely faint.
Okay, wait a minute, we'll fix that. Can you hear me now?
Very faint.
Okay, we'll work on that. Let's see here. We were asking about your book. First, we asked you, how are you? And then we asked you about your book, or tell us about your book. So,
I'm still learning.
Mm-hmm.
And the book can be purchased by going to producejustice.com. The title of the book is The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. The supplementary title is a textbook, workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism, which is perceived as white supremacy. And the book is tailored, you might say, to the individual person as a victim of racism. If the person perceives him or herself to be a victim of racism, not all people perceive themselves as being that, then the book is written specifically for the individual person, and with an overview of what racism is and how it works, and with some suggestions, a number of suggestions, about what the individual person can do as a compensatory reaction to the system of racism itself on a daily basis in all 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And those basic areas cover just about everything that a person would be engaged in, one or another, any time of day or night, anywhere on the planet. And it's tailored to the individual. Just some suggestions about what a person can think about it, what a person can say about it, and what a person can do about it, presumably with the most constructive results that can be perceived at this time. And you can get the book by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com.
All righty, producejustice.com. And before we continue...
you're still coming in very, very faint.
Okay, Mr. Fuller, we are addressing that issue. So whatever you can glean for hearing me, we appreciate that, but we're still working on that. Let's see here. Let's give a update on the donation part. Congratulations for us. We are now at $31.50, I believe, on the donation. So we're coming up to our goal of $4,000. So thank you for your donations, and we appreciate that. We'll continue until we reach that goal of $4,000. Okay, let's do this. The phone lines are now open, and you can call now at 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. Let's see if we can go to a Gmail while we are here. Oh, yes, let's do this. You talk about the fifth area of people activity, and we're speaking of the law. Again, new people calling in all the time. What is the law under this system of racism, white supremacy, Mr. Fuller?
Law is defined as anything that is done. If you do something, that's a law. If you're driving a car, you put your hands on the wheel. That's a law of driving the car. Why? Because you're doing it, and you're driving. You're actually driving. So anything that you do is a law. And a person might say, well, that's against the law. Well, that's just doing something that somebody else disapproves of, but you're actually enacting a law when you're doing what you're doing. Now, there's a difference between law and justice. Laws are any activities that are going on. That's law. I mean, the breeze coming by, that's law. Clouds, that's law. Why? Because clouds exist. Clouds do something. Anything that's doing something, that is an explicit law within itself. Now, justice is balance between people, which means that's law too. But that means you have a law that will produce justice or a law that will not produce justice. Laws are any activities, but justice is supposed to be the result of law when you're talking about interaction between people. Law is activity, and you have activity that will result in a thing called justice. Of course, you have to have a definition for justice. And since law is an activity, justice is what? If it's done correctly, if you're talking about activities between people, you're supposed to have a guarantee that no person is mistreated, and a guarantee that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. Now, so far, none of the laws that people have enacted, meaning none of the things that people have done on this planet in recorded history, has resulted in a thing called justice being established, meaning guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needed help the most got the most constructive help. That has never happened in recorded history. But that's something that everyone should be working on bringing about. That's a duty. According to what? According to the logic of establishing laws that have to do with the activities of people. Law being activity. Anything that's done, that's a law.
Okay. Alrighty. With that being said, let's go to line number one. Line number one, you are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
All right. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Fuller, Mr. Bobby. I have a question for Mr. Fuller. All right. So I'm an artist. There's an art show coming up. One of my pieces was done before I learned about the code system. So it might create confusion for non-white people, but it might also help me get sales. So I'm kind of conflicted on what to do. The constructive result would be to sell art, but the non-constructive result might be creating more confusion. I wondered, what Mr. Fuller would advise a person in my situation.
Okay, Mr. Fuller.
You mean in being an artist?
Yes.
You mean an artist like in making drawings?
Correct.
Well, you always think about if you're producing anything. See, that's just production. Making a drawing is a form of production. Like under economics, the section of the book, it says we're always supposed to be producing something. The major thing we're supposed to be producing is a thing called justice. Why? Because according to compensatory logic, justice is something that is needed that we don't have. So you always try to produce something that is needed. So anything that you produce, and if you're producing a painting or a cartoon or any image of something, you should have in mind, now how is this going to affect a person's thinking? Because evidently if you're painting something, you intend for someone to look at what you have painted. And so it comes down to one question. What is that person going to be motivated to do as a result of looking at that painting? So that's what you should have in mind. There's all types of art forms. That's why I asked, were you talking about a form of painting? Stage plays, they call that a form of art. Writing a poem is a form of art, they say. It's literary art. And writing a story is a form of art. Producing a movie is a form of art. And all of these forms of art, logically speaking, are supposed to be producing a type of message. What is the message? And what do you expect the message to produce? So some people say that they have a thing called abstract art, where I've never really understood a lot about that myself. But I have a vague idea of what it might mean. When people show me an example of abstract art, it might be just some lines on a wall, maybe 4 lines in a row. I mean, and the lines, they're just lines on a canvas, and pointed diagonally, you might say, just 4 lines. And they will take up a huge wall in a museum with just those 4 lines. I've seen that type of thing. And people say that that's art. So it comes down to one thing. When I look at it, what do I think about doing? I'm thinking about doing something as a result of looking at it. And whatever I'm thinking about doing is either going to have a constructive effect or a non-constructive effect. That's what any form of communication, and that's what all art is, a form of communication. That comes under communications. You're communicating. And so it comes down to what am I supposed to think about when I see those 4 lines? And what am I supposed to think about doing as a result of having seen it? That's it. So that's what you keep in mind, according to what? According to, I say, compensatory logic.
All right. TalkTainmentRadio.com is a 24/7, no-charge, worldwide broadcasting facility that have hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and, of course, politics. Now, here are several shows that I'd like to share with you. One is called Real Men. Another is called At the Table, and another is called Super Cool. Now, all these shows can be accessed if you go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage, click on Programs, and there you will find the scheduled times and the host, and a little bit about the host and a little bit about the program that you are inquiring about. You can get that from the radio the way it should be heard. That is Talktainment Radio, radio the way radio should be heard. Excuse me, I went to the doctor yesterday and she gave me a couple of shots and it's still... Anyway, it's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. Our on-topic subject is the fifth area of people activity, which is called the law. You may call in by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, at gmail.com, and I will try to read your Gmails. In fact, we have some coming up. But while you're on that homepage, there is a button there. It's called the Donate button, and we'd like for you to donate to the program, in particular to the second hour of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Fuller. And we are on from 9 a.m. Eastern to 11 a.m., 2 hours. But that last hour, the second hour, is the hour that is devoted from the donations that you give. And we appreciate that. Again, we are now at $31.50, which makes us about $950 short of our goal of $4,000. So we'd like to thank you for doing that. Chris Miller, thank you. George Thompson, thank you. Jean Luma, thank you. Samuel Robinson, and I was told this morning, and I forgot her name, but there's one lady that gives, I think it's bi-weekly, and we appreciate that. What was her name, Jean or something like that? Okay. Yeah, well, Ed will get it to me, but I want to thank you for doing that. I never thought about somebody doing that. But Cornelius Baker, he is a loyal giver. All of you who donate are a loyal giver. And if this program really means a lot to you, then go ahead and hit that button, and we can continue on with the program for the second hour. Okay, let's see here. Mr. Fuller, we have a message here for a comment, maybe a question from Dr. Smitherson. And by the way, I call everybody doctor. It's not not that you are not a medical doctor or a doctor in whatever field you're in. That's just my way of communicating with you. Anyway, Dr. Smitherson wrote this. He said, Mr. Fuller, I like a lot what you say, and I've learned stuff every time. I listen to the show, but this thing about sitting around not taking action and feeling guilted into doing nothing, not having fun, constructive fun, even all because we live in a system of white supremacy. Now, I can't do that, Mr. Fuller. I'm not going to let these devils steal me and my people's joy. I refuse to just sit with my arms folded playing mind games with these beasts while they get to celebrate birthdays, make money, and all else. I mean, sometimes, Mr. Neely Fuller, it seems like you want us to be hermits, like priests that can't marry or have sex. Like we got to be upright, and like we as African American people have to be the ones to solve this race issue when we don't create it in the first place. I'll stop here so you can respond, Mr. Fuller, but I just don't see white supremacy ending once more of our people started asking white supremacists a lot of questions. Mr. Fuller, we don't have that amount of time with the condition and situation most of us are in. Guess you can file this under VGQ, Mr. Fuller? Mr. Fuller? Uh, okay. Let me see here. Let me push this button over here. Wow. Okay. This is from Damon Smitherson, and he was speaking about sitting around and not doing nothing, and he's not exactly in agreement with you about that. Hold on, as we have lost connection here. But many of our people are, and he's a young man, Dr. Smitherson. Many of our people are, I guess, sometimes frustrated with the situation and really want to know what to do, and maybe they have problems in obtaining or reading the publication, and that's why we try to make sure that you get the book and go along and read these suggestions, as Mr. Fuller calls them. Now, for those who feel that I may be speaking too much or talking too much, this is a have to. This is a have to until we get things reestablished again. And trust me on this one, I will get letters saying that I do not allow Mr. Fuller to talk too much. Okay, we have him reconnected. Okay, Mr. Fuller, are you there now?
I'm here.
Okay. Now, let me repeat the question because you didn't hear too much of the question. Is that correct?
I didn't hear anything. I heard a lot of static for about 5 minutes.
Okay. I think we just about got that set. But anyway, Dr. Smitherson wrote this, and I'm repeating it for those who were on the line anyway, but you weren't. So here it goes. It says, Mr. Fuller, I like a lot of what you say, and I've learned a lot of stuff every time. I listen to the show, but this thing about sitting around, not taking action, and feeling guilted into doing nothing, not having fun, constructive fun, even all because we live in a system of white supremacy. Mr. Fuller, I can't do that. I'm not going to let these devils steal me, my people's joy. I refuse to just sit with my arms folded, playing mind games with these beasts while they get to celebrate birthdays, make money, and everything else. I mean, sometimes, Mr. Fuller, it seems like you want us to be hermits, like priests that can't marry or have sex. Like we got to be upright, and like we as African American people have to be the ones to solve this race issue when we don't create it in the first place. Mr. Fuller, I'll stop here so you can respond, but I just don't see white supremacy ending once more of our people start asking white supremacists a lot of questions. We don't have that amount of time, Mr. Fuller, with the condition and situation most of us are in. I guess maybe you could say this is VGQ. Okay.
The book covers 9 areas of activity. And there are a lot of things that are suggested in there to be done. And if we're talking about fun, as the premise is that if you're classified as non-white, you're a prisoner of war. So most prisoners do not want to be in prison. Now, a person can have fun in prison, but, depending on what you mean by fun, you can make fun of trying to get out of prison. That's the logical procedure. The book is written for people who perceive themselves as having a problem. Now, if we're going to all look at ourselves like we're on a playground, a person can do that. The book is just for people who perceive racism as being a problem, and that problem needs to be done away with, which means all of your funds should be geared toward doing away with a problem. But if racism is not a problem, a person can use all of his or her time, it's just a matter of individual choice, doing nothing but having fun in such a way that it doesn't do anything about solving the problem, because the problem isn't perceived as being a problem. That the whole idea is to have fun rather than to solve problems. So a lot of people look at it like that. Many black people already look at it like that. Have always looked at it like that. That it's zippity-doo-dah time. That it's fun time all the time. That you never get serious about anything. And people who run prisons, people who run slave camps, always like for their darkest to be happy. Hand clapping, high-fiving, banjo playing. Yes, that's an ideal prisoner. It's what you call an award-winning prisoner. Everybody who runs a prison wants that type of activity to go on among their prisoners. This is why they have what they call recreation time. Play ping pong, do anything except have an idea that you're trying to get out of this prison as a prison of war.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes recently I've been making a reference to the movie Saving Private Ryan. Now, this Captain Miller, played by Tom Hanks, I think, in the movie Saving Private Ryan, he was asked by one of his soldiers, about hitting a German position. This is about World War II. And he said, I don't feel good about it. He said, I don't feel good about this one. I mean, they don't know that we're here, so we can probably, we can just don't even have to deal with it. We can go around it. And he said, hey, we're going to deal with it because we're in a war. We're on a battlefield, and we're soldiers. Soldiers deal with problems. That's what we're here for. And saying in so many words, we're not somewhere on a Broadway stage. We're on a battlefield, mister. And so we are going to take the risk of making ourselves miserable by engaging in battle. And we're not supposed to feel good about it. Say, when is the last time you felt good about anything? Because you're soldiers. The idea of being a soldier is not to feel good. The idea of being a soldier is to win the war, because that's why you're a soldier. Now, if you're a comedian, then that's something else again. You don't have any business on the battlefield. So that's the way you look at it. So it's all a matter of choice. We are prisoners of war. Now, there are people who say that we're not. So if we're not, then it's banjo time all the time. If we look at it like we don't have a problem that needs for us to solve. But we look at it like we're all supposed to be soldiers on a battlefield. The only thing we're supposed to feel good about is trying to produce a thing called justice, which means you have to eliminate a thing called racism. Otherwise, you're not going to have it. So it's just a matter of whether or not you value a thing called justice or that you don't.
It's just that simple. Hello?
Hello.
Okay. I said, and in other words, if you do not eliminate justice, then this is not going to happen.
If you do not eliminate racism.
Racism. Yeah, Yeah, if you do not eliminate racism, this is not going to happen.
But that might not be a person's priority. So a person might just say, well, I'm going to spend my time, having fun. So you can do that. But
what would be the constructive result of that?
Well, it's up to the person. That's why I'm saying there's nothing dictatorial about what I write. I'm not anybody's dictator. I'm not in that position anyway.
Yes.
I'm just making suggestions about maybe we should solve a problem called racism.
Okay.
There are lots of people who say, no, racism ain't that big of a problem. So I'm just going to spend my time having fun. You can do that.
Yes, sir. Okay, TalkTameAtRadio.com. We go where you go, and you can check us out on 94.1 WGRN. Podcasts are available, and you can download the TalkTameAtRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio, the way it should be heard. Stay right there. We'll have more questions and your phone calls, all that and more coming up next. At TalkTameAtRadio.com, we go where you go, and you can simply download the TalkTameAtRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. then that's radio, the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., who is on the line live from Washington, D.C. And if you would like to get in contact with the show, you can by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7, Mr. Bobby at gmail.com, and I will try to get your information or your questions or comments read. Thank you for listening. And while you are listening, and since you have us online, hit that donate button that is right there. It's all tax deductible. Any amount for the second hour of the compensatory concept with Mr. Fuller, and we will be able to continue. We're up to $31.50, so we're about $950 short from where we want to be at, but thank you for donating. Some of the names that have done that: Don Milchner, Walter Ware, Daryl Searless, Carolyn Taylor, thank you very much, Mustafa Dabo, Victor Palmer, Chris Miller, and Alice Talley. Thank you for all your donations, and that helps keep us going. Okay, we're speaking on the fifth area of people activity, and that is called the law. But as you can see, we will, or Mr. Fuller will answer any questions that you have, and make sure that you ask him the questions, because this is basically his show. Now, if you want to ask me something, you can ask me off air and I'll answer it. But right now, we want him to focus on it, because he's the author of the book, The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. For those new to the show, all it is a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism, which is white supremacy. And as he just mentioned before we went to break, these are suggestions, meaning you don't have to agree, but take your time to look at it at any point of the book, and he will. You can look at the suggestions and go from there. Before we go into that, let's do a phone call. Line number 1. You are on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr.
Good morning, Mr. Fuller. My question is, my name is Anthony. I'm from Milledgeville, Georgia. My question is, you were the first person, Ms. Wilson, told us to talk about white supremacy as a system. I was having an argument the other day with another non-white person. And most people are reluctant to see white supremacy as a system, most non-white people. And most of us are reluctant to blame them for any of our problems. For example, he was saying, like, I was like, white supremacy is this, white supremacy is that. He's like, well, we need to stop blaming the white man. We need to stop blaming white supremacy. We need to take action and do it ourselves. And most non-white people feel like this show is not action. The United Independent Compensatory Code is not action. The only action we're going to have is if we get violent. His example was, they have the KKK. We need to have our own black group going around lynching and killing white people. And I was trying to explain to him how that would not work for us. So I guess my point is, how do we get non-white people to see white supremacy as a system that is to blame for all the problems of non-white people?
You just simply say it. And if they don't agree with it, then you say, okay, well, then if the racism is not the problem, if the white supremacists are not the problem, what is? All problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. So most people say that they have problems. Most people on the planet say that they have problems every day. Not just some days, every day. Just about everybody on the planet will wake up in the morning and say they have some type of problem, even if the problem is just trying to make it to the bus station on time, or make a connection for a bus or a subway or an airplane or something, or getting gas in the car. That might be a problem. The gas station closed for some unexplained reason, and they couldn't get gas, and now they got to get to work. That's a problem. Almost everybody has problems. All right. So you look at the major problems that people have, and that's what the textbook for victims of racism is about. What is the major problem on the planet? Now, some people will say that major problem is not racism. That's way down on the list. I mean, it's all kinds of problems. Well, then the book is not for that person. That's all it is. This book is written for people who perceive racism as being the number one problem on the planet, and that you can't solve any other problem until you solve the problem of racism. That's problems between people. That is the basic premise of the entire book. Now, a lot of people say, well, that ain't so. That just simply ain't true. I mean, there's thousands of problems before you get around to talking about something like racism. That's a small thing. We got all kinds of big problems to get before that. Well, then, if a person takes that position, then a person should work on solving those problems, which they say are the major problems. I have taken the position, and I think it's based on logic, that you can't solve any major problem without solving the problem of racism. And you do it as an individual person, each and every day. Things that you do, things that you don't do, things that you say, things that you don't say. Now, that's the premise. That premise could be false. That might not be able to do anything. But I believe that it is. Mm-hmm. I believe that's the solution. When people say that we need to solve the race problem by getting together, get together and do what? Get together and say what? Get together and think what? Because everything is thought, speech, and action. Everything that people do consists of thinking, speaking, and acting. So the premise is that if each individual person thinks correctly meaning thinks about problem solving, how to go about solving a problem is right in front of them every minute of the day. Think about problem solving, and then speaking about problem solving, how to go about solving that problem that you are thinking about. Do that every minute of every day, and then actually acting on thought, speech, action on the problem that you are thinking about and talking about. You act. You do the thing that you are thinking about doing and speaking about doing, then you do it. And if each individual does that minute by minute, everywhere on the planet, every day, in every area of activity, logic says that the problem will get solved.
Okay.
But it takes individual action, thought, speech, action.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, just like that.
Yes, sir.
By individuals. You get enough individuals doing the correct thinking, the correct speaking, and the correct acting, problem solved. Boom, 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 just like that.
Just like that. Okay. Going into the law, page 154 in the revised expanded edition. Mr. Fuller, you wrote this. If you are confronted by a suspected race soldier pretending to be a police officer, immediately go into, in quotations, danger mode. Regard yourself as being captured and completely helpless prisoner of war. Could you read under there for the explanation of why you wrote that suggestion?
Now, you said what now?
This is what you wrote on page 154 of the revised expanded edition about if you are confronted by a suspected race soldier, what to do.
154.
Yes, sir. 154. Then
if
under
you're
what?
Confronted by a suspected race soldier pretending to be a police officer, and the suggestion is immediately go into danger mode, and it's in parentheses the word danger. Regard yourself as being captured and a completely helpless prisoner of war. That's the procedure.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Why? Because that's what you are. Now, if you're not that, there are people who will say, "No, that's not what I am." I mean, I'm not no prisoner of war.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not captured. I'm a free man. I go about doing what I want to do.
But you gave an explanation as to why you said that under there.
I give an explanation. The explanation is, as a prisoner of war, it is best to act as if you are a soldier captured in greatly fortified enemy territory. Greatly fortified enemy territory. That's where you are. If confronted by a suspected race soldier, consider yourself as being captured because you have been. As a non-white person, in most situations, you are regarded as a criminal, a dangerous animal, an enemy soldier, an escaped convict, a savage. That's if that person is soft, but the person stopping you, you might say, confront you, is a white supremacist. Then that person is perceiving you to be a criminal, a dangerous animal, an enemy soldier, an escaped convict, a savage, etc., etc., etc. So your very existence is in danger.
Okay. Now
you have to take that position.
Okay. Now, right underneath that box, you wrote suggestions. Could you read that so we can address that?
Suggestion. If confronted by a suspected race soldier, do not do anything to make that officer, quote, unquote, believe that you will not comply. Everything that you say should be yes, sir, or yes, ma'am, or no, sir, or no, ma'am, and always do what you are told to do. Why? Because that gets you the best result.
Okay, go ahead. Continue there.
If you are told to put your hands up, put your hands up. If you are told to get on the ground, get on the ground. Do not argue, fight, resist, name call, or talk about your rights. You may explain that later. You do not make any quick moves or give reason to believe you are being aggressive or not complying. Be courteous and do your best to be cooperative. Avoid doing or saying anything that will give them an excuse to legally do bodily harm to you, whatever that word legally means. We don't know what that means in a system of racism. So you don't act like you know what it means.
Okay.
You just do what you're told. Keep in mind that during the existence of white supremacy, any white person who is able to be a racist probably is one.
Okay.
I'm going to repeat that. Keep in mind that during the existence of white supremacy, which is racism, any white person who is able to be a racist probably is one.
Okay. Now, in discussions this week and meetings that I've had this week and some last week, we have something going on in this particular city. It's probably going on all over the country, but there have been black people who have taken the suggestions that you have made, particularly in this section, hands up, not resisting arrest and doing what was told. Here we're dealing with a person who was kicked in the head, handcuffed, and beat by, I don't know, I don't want to say a law enforcement officer, but a race soldier.
Suspected race soldier.
Well, I saw the video. Okay, suspected race soldier. And it is a very disturbing video, and this has been going on all across the country. People doing exactly what you have said in this piece here. Don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee, and still got the hell beat out of them. How do you say that? How do you deal with that?
You do it as a captured prisoner of war. See, that's the way to look at it. You're already captured.
Yeah.
And when you're captured, you don't do anything that's going to make your situation worse. I mean, we need to look at some war movies sometimes. I mean, you know, and just look at the people who are captured. They're in a death camp. They're in a concentration camp. You comply. You comply. Why? Because when you don't, you make your situation worse.
Okay.
And when you get kicked in the head, get knocked around, if you put up a fight, you're going to lose.
So are you suggesting take the kick in the head, take the slap in the face, or beating of the billy club and all that? You know, get your behind beat. Are you suggesting that?
I'm suggesting that you do what is going to be successful. Now, that comes down to one thing. You're surrounded. You're outgunned. See, it's not like it's even Steven. Oh, no, you're outgunned.
Yeah.
You are already captured.
Yeah.
All right. So you're on a battlefield, and you've been captured. You just landed in, I'm going to give this example. You fell out of the sky in a parachute.
Yeah.
You're trying to get out of your parachute. You suddenly find yourself surrounded by 15 people with bayonets fixed. Rifles and bayonets. All right. They immediately start pouncing on you and beating you.
Okay.
You're going to have to take that beating. That's the fact. That's the fact. That's why I'm saying you have to think on this planet, if you're black, like you're on a battlefield. You're not in la-la land. And you are going to get beat. That's how you have to think. I mean, that is an absolute.
That's the logical
way.
way
You have to think.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you don't get the beating, consider that a bonus. If you don't get kicked in the eye, consider yourself lucky.
Okay.
Because you are a savage.
Savage.
You are a wild animal. You are a captured soldier.
Okay.
Behind enemy lines. And there's nobody out there but you and the other soldiers of the other persuasion.
Okay.
And they have decided that they're going to take the liberty to beat you. Now, if you think you can win that battle, well, that's your decision to make.
Okay.
But I'm saying, most likely, your situation is going to get worse if you put up a fight.
Okay.
Now, any soldier that's ever been captured knows that.
All right.
You do that with that understanding that your situation is going to get worse, not better.
Okay, let's take a call.
That's what it comes down to. That's the mechanics of it.
Okay, let's go to line one. Line one, you're on with Mr. Fuller.
Good morning. Quick question for Mr. Fuller, sir. Two, actually. First question, Mr. Fuller, under the system of racism, white supremacy, when non-white people, particularly black people, do quote-unquote business with each other or are entrepreneurs with each other or what have you, what is the proper way, what is the correct way for a non-white person to do so-called business with another non-white person, or for a non-white person to do business with white people, what have you? And I guess I'm not sure what kind of businesses can we have under the system of racism, white supremacy? That's one question. And the other question...
Wait a minute. Let Mr. Fuller answer the first question first.
Okay, the first question is, it will most likely have to be a niche business, and that's going to be more and more the case. That comes under economics. I always say, just what we call our living room. What do we do in a living room? We look at television, and we might have a few books or magazines lying around, and mostly a living room is usually where we, traditionally, it probably wasn't intended to be that, but we receive guests in our living room. We don't usually receive them in our bedroom or in the kitchen, or sometimes in the kitchen maybe, but mostly if someone is coming to visit you, they go to the quote-unquote living room. And when you're not receiving guests, you spend it as a place where you sit and, in this day and time, look at television, mostly. Mostly you look at television in the living room. So I'm saying every black person who has that type of space that you call a living room should be thinking of using that so-called living room as the ingenuity room. I mean, just think of it as being that. I mean, what do you mean by living? I mean, living room. Do you live in every room, or do you live in some rooms? Or what do you mean by living? I mean, where do you live? People say, where do you live? They mean the whole house or the whole apartment and whatnot. When does the living begin and when does it end? So these are just words that's just kind of thrown around that don't have logical definitions. But if you say what you call your living room is the ingenuity room, when you walk in, you immediately go into a thoughtful mode of what is ingenuity, meaning you come up with solutions to problems. When you enter this room, you're supposed to be thinking about what we do in this room is try to brainstorm, try to really think about how to solve problems. What problems? Whatever problems we have. And you think about maybe producing something.
Oh, okay.
This is why a lot of inventions are made where? In people's garages.
Yes, sir. Okay. What's your second question, dear?
Hello?
Yeah,
Yes,
go ahead.
sir. Yes, sir. I thank you for that, Mr. Fuller. Yeah, the second question is, when it comes to relating to offspring or relating to siblings, people who, sisters and brothers, bloodline sisters and brothers, or children, what have you, adult children. What is the correct or most constructive way, in your view, to relate to or interact with these people?
You interact with them the way that you interact with all people. In other words, in the most constructive manner. Everything is constructive or non-constructive. And these are the words you actually use. You actually use these words, constructive, non-constructive. And you put it in the form of a question. Why? Because all problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. All interaction between people should be about problem solving for people who have problems to solve. And black people are always talking about they got problems with their kinfolks, problems with their offspring, problems. Well, what you do is just go to the logic of problem solving. That's all it is. Doesn't make any difference what age everybody is and what their position is supposed to be, quote, unquote, mother, father, boy, girl, son, daughter, cousin, distant cousin, second cousins, adopted cousins, whatever. It's all the same. Problem solving. Because we're always talking about we're having all kinds of problems. So how do you solve problems? Through the process of questions and answers. And so what you're trying to come to, what is the first question you ask? If someone is doing something or saying something, you say, Ralph, I got one question to start off with. It's what you're saying. Is it going to produce a constructive result or a non-constructive result? And if it's going to be constructive, Ralph, how is it going to be constructive? Now, you're my cousin. Mm-hmm. Now, you're saying we need to do this and we need to do that. Okay. How are we going to go about doing it? And then you go into that 4-question mode. The 4 basic questions that apply to anybody, anywhere on the planet, any minute of any day. And that is what? What do you want to do? That's the first question. Second question, why do you want to do it? Third question, how do you plan to do it? Must have a plan, or you should have one, if you want to do it, and you got a reason for doing it. So what's your plan for doing it? And number 4, what do you expect the constructive result to be? Now, those are 4 questions that you can put to any so-called family member or any person that you meet on a bus stop or sitting beside on an airplane. I mean, everybody wants to do something. So it always comes down to how do you handle what people want to do. See, look at it that way. You don't even have to look at what the so-called blood relationship is. Relationships are either constructive or non-constructive. I don't care who it is, whether it's someone that you're akin to or someone that you work with at an office. It's always the same. See, just get that in your mind. Because people say, well, how do you interact with family members? Do you do the same thing with family members as you do with the people that you work? Yes, because everything is going to be constructive or non-constructive. And you always want to be in the constructive mode.
All righty.
So those are the 4 basic questions you can ask when the arguments break out. Just go to those 4 basic questions.
Okay.
They'll take everybody right where they need to go.
All right, thank you. We got to leave it there because you know what happens when we hear the music. TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. Stay tuned for the second hour, and thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You've got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTainmentRadio.com. Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. TalkTainmentRadio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
All righty. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go on the world's greatest radio. You are now in touch with the compensatory concept. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is Radio the Way It Should Be Heard. We have on the line live from Washington, D.C., Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. He is the author of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, and we will have him speak about that in just a moment. But thank you for tuning in and listening. Now, you know, this is the second hour, so the second hour is a donate hour. And, of course, we need your donations to continue in the second hour because the program is heard from 9 until 11 Eastern Time. So in this particular hour, a lot of people from the West Coast of the United States tune in, and then they begin to call in. So they don't exactly tune in at 9 a.m. our time, which would be 6 a.m. their time, but they're on the line now. So while you're there, hit that donate button, and you can donate any amount of money that you want to keep the second hour going. You wanted it, it is here, so let's do it together. We're at $31.50, so we need $950 more to do this, and it can be done. Mr. Fuller is the author of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, and Mr. Fuller, we have new people that are inquiring about the book, that are listening to the program, and briefly, in about a minute, can you just describe the book, where we can get it, and where it can be distributed overseas?
Go to producejustice.com, producejustice.com, and some of the things we have been discussing in the previous hour, you'll find that in the book about suggestions, about what? Problem solving. And you can get the book by going to producejustice.com. And if you solve just your day-to-day problems, this is the premise, just the problems that are put right in front of you every minute of the day. Everybody has some kind of problem they have to deal with for the most part. How best to go about solving that problem. Then if every person individually can solve the individual problems of that person, of your own person, then all problems of all people, theoretically and functionally, will be solved. That's the premise of the entire book in all 9 areas of activity. And the biggest problem, of course, is the problem of racism. But anytime as a victim of racism, you're coming up with a constructive way of solving just the problems that you're confronted with day by day, you are actually destroying the system of racism. People don't think of it that way. We think of some type of, magical plan or something, that comes out of some type of mysterious realm, from behind a cloud somewhere or something like that. And then we tap into that, then we will come up with the solution to the race problem. No, the race problem is held together by what people do each and every day. What they think, what they say, and what they do, both white people and non-white people. That's what keeps the race problem going. So if you change this arrangement from doing something different and more constructive with what you're already doing, you're already changing that equation. And you're actually, if you're doing anything, doing or saying anything of constructive value, and you're a non-white person who is doing something of constructive value rather than non-constructive value, you are automatically eroding, eliminating the system of racism, because racism is designed to keep non-white people doing and saying things all day long that are going to produce a non-constructive result. Here again, you can get the book by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com.
All right.
And the method for ordering will be there.
Okay. Let's see here. And one more thing before we move on. You can get the book in Canada, and you're working on getting the book in the United Kingdom. Is that correct?
We're working on that for sure.
Okay.
Because a lot of people in England and places like that say that they've been trying to get the book, but we're definitely working on that.
Okay.
We've already gotten the Canadian connection.
All right, good. Okay, 1-877-932-9766 is the number that you can call to get in contact with Mr. Fuller and ask your question directly, or you can Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, at gmail.com. I'm not sure that I'm going to get to those today, but I will read them either today or at some other point in the show. Let's go to the Gmails. This is from Dr. McKinley. He likes to be referred to as Dr. Mac. He says, a while back, Mr. Fuller, I asked you if you saw certain movies, but now I want to ask you, Mr. Fuller, if you have ever read books like The 48 Laws of Power, which says a lot of the same things you say, but it came after your book. Or have you read The Spook Who Sat by the Door? An America Dilemma by Gunnar Myrdal came out in the 40s, and basically a study of the African American condition in this country, and concludes by saying that we all should be exterminated. Have you read The Choice by Sam Yeti? If you read if you read the book, what are your impressions? These books opened my mind wide when I was studying history years ago. Also, did you see the movie Get Out yet? Because it exposes a side of white supremacy most people were never aware of, and you'll find it very interesting. I thank you for all your time, Mr. Fuller, and thank you for taking my question. Mr. Fuller?
Yes, in answer to the first questions about the books, I have had these books, but I didn't read them. I never got around to it. Sam Greenlee's book, The Spook That Sat by the Door. I had that book for years. I was intending to get around to reading it because I had stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of books. And that's one that I just glanced through, but I don't remember very much of what I saw when I glanced through it. Also, The Choice by Sam Yates. I had that book. I think I still have it somewhere among all the other books that I have. Mm-hmm. I never got around to reading that except to glance through it. So I cannot make a comprehensive or an intelligent response to what is in the books. And the movie Get Out I've heard glowing reports, you might say, using that term, favorable reports of that movie. They say it's a sleeper, you might call it. I think that's what they call it in the movie business. They say it's a movie that kind of came out of nowhere that most people should see, particularly black people and a lot of white people. They say because it gets to the core of a lot of the little nuances of white, non-white interaction. So I haven't seen the movie, but somebody says that there's somebody who is going to give me that movie, they say, when it becomes available.
Okay.
I probably won't get to the theater to see it because I have a finite amount of time.
Yes, sir.
And but someone says that they're definitely going to provide it for me when the movie is legitimately on the market, and I will see it at that time.
Okay. All righty. Let's go to another Gmail. This is from Dr. J. He says this, Mr. Fuller, are you familiar with the term concept intersectionally? If so, what's your take on it? And if not, which I'm willing to bet you may not, then let me explain it a bit. Intersectionally is a made-up word, a concept created by an Afro-American professor at UCLA 30 years ago, and its goal and attempt to show how all forms of discrimination intersect. My issue and problem with it is that it has become a bit of a divisive tool within the black thought community in terms of how we should proceed in becoming empowered. There are some in that group, primarily consisting of black professional women, who don't want to consider either your or the late Dr. Frances Cress Welsing's theories because they can counter what they are promoting. And so I thought I'd pass this along to you to be aware of, do some further research on it, and you will be, all including those in this audience, can be aware of one of the latest tricks being used to keep black people confused and divided. I thank you for your time, Dr. J. So he was asking about this term, a made-up term, intersectionally. What are your thoughts on that, Mr. Fuller?
I don't know what it is. What did he say it was?
He said it is a made-up term, a concept created by an African-American professor at UCLA nearly 30 years ago, and its goal and attempt is to show how all forms of discrimination intersect.
Oh, intersect?
Yeah, intersect. You know, they all come together.
Oh, yes. All forms of racism, you might, in 9 areas of activity, if I understand what that means. But what was the intent of the writer or the person that made up the term?
The intent was to show how all forms of this made-up word intersectionally, they all intersect or connect at some point. But he went on to say that some particularly African-American women do not respect the writings of you and Sister, the late Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, basically putting aside that because they feel perhaps empowered that in this particular area that they are empowered. So he felt that this word really, instead of bringing folks together, really is tearing people apart, particularly black folks. That's what he felt.
Oh, well, as far as disagreements about what I am saying and what Dr. Frances Welsing was saying or what anybody is saying about the race issue, that comes under VGQ. So that keeps people from arguing among themselves about the validity of anything that anybody is saying. People just listen. What I suggest is that people just listen to what I'm saying and make up their own minds. Like, nothing is supposed to be dictatorial because Nothing should be. People should make up their own minds. Everybody is supposed to have a mind of his or her own. So if a person decides that anything that I have written is not for them, then they should read something that somebody else wrote, or they should write something themselves about what's for them. That's the United Independent way anyway. That's what I strongly advocate. I always say, and on this program I've said many times, never believe in or follow anything that Neely Fuller says, unless you choose to do so and find that it works for you as an individual. If it doesn't, don't bother with it. I definitely say you don't bother with anything. Don't follow anything blindly, simply because you heard somebody say it or somebody gave their opinion. All I offer is just some opinions. No one has solved the race problem. Now let's start with that. No one has come up with a solution to the race problem. So everybody's opinion should be listened to.
Okay.
And each individual make up his or her own mind about how they are going to proceed after hearing what they hear or reading what they read.
Okay.
That's it.
That's it. Let's take a phone call. Line number 1. Go ahead.
Greetings. Can I be heard?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Fuller. Could you explain to the listeners that combining the words human and race are not logical and is incorrect, and what should be the best way to define the people within the known universe?
Oh, you just define people within the known universe, and if you're talking about racism, in 3 categories: white, non-white, and white supremacists. And of course, you have to be white, classified as white, in order to be a white supremacist. A lot of black people look like they are white, but they're not classified as white. They're classified as black. All right? So they can't be white supremacists, okay? Because they are classified as non-white. White, non-white, white supremacists. These are the 3 logical racial categories. Now, if you look at the census that's been put out some time ago in the Northwestern Hemisphere of racial categories, it's 21 categories. But in the book that I have written, I say that is a confusing census and that it is false. That entire census is false. The 21 categories are false categories. They shouldn't exist because I say, and you can agree or disagree, that there are just 3 categories: white, non-white, and white supremacists. But you have to be classified as white in order to be a white supremacist, because not all white people are white supremacists, but the most powerful and smartest ones among white people, presumably, are white supremacists. Why? Because if the white people who didn't believe in white supremacy were the smartest and most powerful, then white supremacy wouldn't exist. That's the equation. But that's just an opinion that I advance. Now, when it comes to human race, there's no such thing as a human race. Why would a human be racing against what? What is a human racing against? And then another thing, we don't even have human beings, because the logic is you can't have a system of white supremacy and have human beings in the same space at the same time, or on the same planet at the same time. Why? Because if people could be humane, which means practicing justice, then you can't have justice and white supremacy on the same planet at the same time. It does not compute. So you don't have human beings. You just have beings who hopefully are trying to be human or humane, but they don't exist. You can't have humanity and white supremacy on the same planet at the same time. It doesn't compute.
Okay. Thank you for your call, caller. Talktainment Radio is a talktainmentradio.com, that is. It's a 24/7, no charge, worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news and lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here's a couple or a few I'd like to share with you. One is called Real Men. The other one is New Money. Do you really know what money is? And Wiggins World. Now, all these shows can be accessed if you go to the talktainmentradio.com homepage and click on programs. And there you will find the scheduled times and maybe a little bit about the show and what it's all about and the host. Anyway, all that is from talktainmentradio.com, and that is radio the way it should be heard. And while you are there on that homepage, hit that donate button. We're up to $31.50 in our donations for the second hour of the compensatory concept, and we'd like to thank you for that. So continue to hit that button so that we can get our goal, which is $4,000, and then we'll be all happy. Thank you to Daryl Searless. Let's see, Vic Palmer, Chris Miller, Alice Talley, Roberto Lawson, Reginald Thomas, Mario Terran, and Cornelius Williams Jr. Thank you for your donations to the second hour of the compensatory concept. Okay. I was going to read a Gmail, but we got a call, so we'll take the call. Go ahead, caller. You're now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr.
Can I be heard?
Yes.
All right. Hi, Mr. Fuller. How are you?
I'm still learning.
Yes, sir. So I just had a question. I'm probably off topic, but I had a question about victims of racism who have they're so-called blacks and they have white parents. Could you talk about why are they so defensive when you try to discuss racism, white supremacy with them?
The question is, should I talk about black people who have white parents?
Yeah, and why are they so defensive when you try to discuss racism, white supremacy with them?
Why they are so defensive?
Yes, sir.
Oh, well, a discussion about racism is a discussion about racism. That's the way you look at it. And how do you conduct a discussion about racism? You just tell the truth. It doesn't make any difference how anybody reacts to it. I mean, that does make a difference. I'll correct that.
Yes, because they don't even want to follow logic, seems like.
Okay, well,
because their parent is white.
Say that again.
Because maybe one of their parents are white, so they don't want to follow logic.
Okay. Well, see, if you're a non-white person on this planet, our illegitimate parents are white. That's the way to look at it, in a compensatory way, because that's the truth. See, they became our parents, but they are our illegitimate parents. So if you're a non-white person anywhere on the planet, our parents, the people who tell us what to do, the people who feed us, clothe us, if you are black, brown, red, yellow, on this planet, the white supremacists among the white people, not all white people are white supremacists, but the white supremacists are the source of your parenting. I have white parents. I don't know of any non-white person, any black person that doesn't have white parents. Why? Because they are illegitimate parents. That's the way to look at it. All of them, every white supremacist is a parent, quote unquote, of every non-white person on the planet. They are illegitimate parents because they killed off the parents that were qualified to be our parents. Because what is a parent? A person that's in charge of you. That's your parent. the person that feeds you, clothes you, houses you, the person that you have to run to when you're ailing. And every non-white person on this planet, and as of this morning's paper, I haven't seen it change, and as the world that I'm familiar with, I haven't seen it change. I'm just looking at a headline here. Page A8, Washington Post newspaper. Wars have left 20 million people on the brink of starvation. That's the headline on page A8, Washington Post, April the 12th, 2017. On page A8, wars have left 20 million people on the brink of starvation. Then it lists where these 20 million people are. South Sudan, you might say, Yemen, Nigeria, Somalia, 4 places. 20 million people on the brink of starvation. Say 75,000 people, children, will die by June of this year. By June of this year, 75,000 people are projected to die in Nigeria alone. 75,000 children are projected to die by June from starvation. Now, who's in charge of the food on this planet? Well, according to the last time I checked, those white people who believe in white supremacy. They're in charge of the world's food supply. You're not going to get any food, period, if you're a person of color, if the white supremacists don't want you to have it. And if you want food, they're the ones who are going to have to provide it either directly or indirectly. That's what supremacy means. So, getting to the core of what we're talking about, they are our parents. So that's how you talk about it. It's not, if you start talking about, well, your direct mother is white, or direct father, or something like that. Well, so what? That doesn't mean anything. I mean, within the greater scheme of things, it's the same thing for everybody. Anyway.
Exactly.
Because we are all dependent. Parents mean somebody you're dependent on. Somebody you got to run to when you cut your finger. Somebody you got to ask for, welfare, or whatever it is you want. You don't see black people running to each other. Black people try to get away from each other because it means harm, for one thing. One black person is out here prowling the street trying to figure out how he can harm another black person to get something from that black person, maybe, rob that black person. But that black person that you're going to rob had to have something that you're going to rob him of. If I go out here as a black person and I'm going to rob another black person today, what does that mean? It means I'm going to take something from that black person that black person got from whom? The white supremacists, either directly or indirectly. See, so even when we rob and steal from each other, we are robbing and stealing items that come from the white supremacists. It's no different, okay? Except we are going to do harm to another black person, like black people are harming each other all over the world right now as we speak. Not just on the streets of the cities of the Northwestern Hemisphere, but all over what we call speaking of mothers, Mother Africa. They're killing each other, slaughtering each other. They are begging each other for food that came from whom? From the white supremacists, because the white supremacists control the food supply all over so-called Mother Africa. Why do they control the food supply? Because they control the people of so-called Mother Africa, Father Africa, everywhere right this minute without exception. And what I said is either true or false. Someone called in a few weeks ago, I believe, and asked me, had I been to Africa? Well, I studied the white supremacists, so you don't have to go anywhere. All you got to do is just study who's in charge of the world, and you got it all.
Wow. All right, we've got to leave it there. Thank you so much, caller, for your call.
All right, thank you.
All righty. Well, when you hear that music, you know we're getting ready to go on the break. TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go, and you can check us out on 94.1 WGRN, and podcasts are available. Download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. Stay right there. I think we're going to do some Gmails and, of course, more of your questions. All that and more coming up next on TalkTainmentRadio.com. All right, TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. You know what to do. Download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., our on-schedule topic today and for the next 3 more weeks after this is the law under the system of racism and white supremacy. And you can simply call in by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, at gmail.com. And while you are there, especially on the homepage, hit that donate button. That's right. Hit that donate button, and away we go. We're up to $31.50. All we need is $950. So if you haven't done so, please, ma'am, please, sir, hit that button for the second hour of the Compensatory Concept and put a little donation in there, and we can continue on. Let's go to okay, while we're doing that, let's see here. Let's get some of these names here while we're waiting to be situated here. Mr. Cornelius Williams just sent in a donation. Dr. Turan has also, Mario Turan has sent in a donation. Let's see here. Donna Hammonds, it looks like, is on. Alice Talley, Greg Shadrick, let's see, Charnel Brown, are just some of the people who have done that. Oh, yes, did I mention Chris Miller? Yeah, Chris Miller has done that. All your donations are accepted and appreciated. Okay, let's go to the phone lines, and caller, you are now on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Is this me?
It's you. Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Fuller, a popular phrase, especially from non-white black people, is in the terms of this country, and it's normally associated with something other than the global system of racist white supremacy. Why do you think that is prevalent amongst non-white black people?
Habit.
Do you?
In answer to the question, habit. Habit.
Yes, sir. Makes sense.
We're just locked into doing that, and we need to pay attention to what we're saying. That's my suggestion. I mean, otherwise we have what we call confusion. The white supremacists are a country.
Right.
They are the only country that exists. There are no such thing as countries in the system of white supremacy. They have eliminated all of that, even though they still have maps showing this is this place, this is Nigeria, this is Canada, this is South America, this is North America, this is Russia. The white supremacists pay no attention to any of that at all. It means absolutely nothing to them. They look at the world one way. White people, non-white people, and white supremacists. That's the way they look at it. These are the categories, in my opinion. Now, some people will argue, well, no, that's not the way they look at it. I mean, that's just an opinion of Neely Fuller, and he put that in his book. Well, the evidence shows that that's how they look at it. That's what I'm just going by the evidence. They don't care anything about borders. Borders are for non-white people. You look at a piece of paper that they call a map, and then you say this is this place and this is that place and that. The white supremacists say, yeah, I make maps, but I don't make maps, that when you look at it, it means whatever I want it to mean. And when it comes to people of color, there's no such thing as countries. They don't have a country. And there's no such thing as countries when it comes to people of color, when it comes to the system of white supremacy. It's a system, a world system. And it consists of white people, non-white people, and white supremacists. And the white supremacists are the dictators of all of the non-white people in all 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war, 24/7, every place on the planet, each and every minute of each and every day into infinity. We intend for that to be, which means we dominate and mistreat people who have color in their skin in all of these areas of activity, regardless of where they are located, anywhere on this planet called Earth. And what we call countries, we do that just to confuse people and for our convenience in practicing white supremacy. But actually, we practice white supremacy, and we don't pay any attention to any lines on any pieces of paper.
Okay.
We know what to do about dark-skinned people wherever we encounter them, or wherever we tell them that they are going to be, because we decide where they are going to be on the planet. We want to move them from one place to another. We can do that.
Yes, sir.
We got all kinds of ways of doing it.
All right. Thank you for your call, caller. Very, very good call. Let's go to the Gmails here. This is from one of our donors. He says this, Dr. Turan. He says this, Mr. Fuller, I have 2 quick questions for you. Number 1, I have a non-white associate who invited me to his wedding. His wife-to-be is white. Would attending the wedding strengthen the system of white supremacy? And number 2, what are some codes that can be of guidance for non-white males and females to manage or run their household and minimize conflict while under the system of white supremacy? Thank you, Dr. Turan.
Okay, if I understood the question, how do you interact with people who are what you might call having a wedding and whatnot? Well, if you want to attend the wedding, you attend the wedding. I mean, you're just observing something taking place in the prison. I mean, but you're supporting the system of racism anyway.
Regardless?
Yes, whether you go to the wedding or not. But if you are offering something in direct support of the wedding, then you are helping, you're adding something to the support. That's all.
Okay, well, he used the word strengthening, so you're saying that by attending the wedding, he's strengthening the system of white supremacy?
Yes.
Okay.
Because we're supporting the system of white supremacy anyway.
Okay.
Whether you go or not.
Okay.
But you are adding something to that support by attending the wedding. If you bring a gift or something like that, you're supporting, what they are doing.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yes, I mean, so, that just goes without saying.
Okay, then he says, what are some of the codes that can be of guidance for non-white males and females to manage or run their household and minimize conflict while under the system of white supremacy?
Oh, well, then that would apply to every situation that we're in. And that is, you minimize conflict by doing what? Minimizing all non-constructive contact. And this is a very painful thing to most black people, because most black people in the northwestern hemisphere, and I think throughout the world, they like contacting each other. Black people like contacting each other, even when they have no valid reason for making contact or constructive reason. erase the word valid.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
say constructive.
Yes, sir.
All contact should be constructive. Now, if black people make up our minds, which is what the code says we should do, every contact that you make with any person, white or non-white, should produce a constructive result. Now, when I tell black people that, particularly in the Northwestern Hemisphere, this is extremely painful because black people like to make contact. We have a habit. In fact, we look forward to making contacts. We starve for that contact.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we make the contact, we usually don't have a constructive reason for doing so.
Okay. All right.
And that has caused all kinds of problems.
It sure has.
So the code has said that you minimize contact. That's even with people who are blood kin. Minimize contact. And you'll be minimizing conflict. Why? Because we all carry, I carry it, a substantial amount of what? Poison.
Poison, okay.
And when black people contact each other, we spread poison.
Poison.
Truth be told, the white supremacists have poisoned us so that we have all kinds of little animosities that we don't admit to. And this is what causes most of our arguments. It's there.
Yes, sir.
All right? So when we seek out each other's company, we can almost feel the argument coming on.
You sure can.
If we tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But we like to tell ourselves lies, talking about how much we love each other. But it doesn't show up in what we actually do.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to stop lying about that.
Okay.
We need to stop that and admit that we all carry poison. So the way around that is before you contact anybody for any reason, make sure that it's for a constructive reason. Outline it, write it down. That when I contact Mary or Jack or Kamani or Coco or whomever, when I contact them, I'm going to contact them and give them this constructive information.
All right.
And immediately after you have relayed that constructive information, break contact. Why? Because if you hang around with that small talk means death for black people. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Right now, okay.
We are going to spread all kinds of poison. We're going to do harm to each other. Small talk does not work. Does not work for black people in the system of white supremacy.
All right.
It's not. I don't care how you twist it and whatnot. It's not going to work. You cannot make small talk. It will not work. It's going to lead to something real ugly. So you make sure that what you say and what you do is something that has to be said and has to be done to do what? Solve a problem. And immediately when that problem is solved, break contact.
All right. Dr. Nasisi says this, or asks this, Mr. Fuller, do you recommend vegetarianism to prevent the mistreatment of animals? And number two, and you've already answered this on many programs, but we'll do it anyway. It says, have you considered an audio version of the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept?
Well, in answer to the first question, I don't know whether vegetarianism is the solution. I just don't know enough about it. But I consider people studying it, vegetarianism, because eating animals seems to be something that I believe that in the beginning was not supposed to be done. But then, if you don't eat animals, do you eat insects? Because insects sometimes are so small, you don't even know they're there. Hello, I'm getting interference.
Yeah, just one moment. Okay. Now, can you hear me now? Okay. All righty. And then he says, have you considered, now you've answered this question many, many, many times, but on previous shows, but he didn't I guess this person, Dr. Neely, did not, or maybe not had the opportunity to listen to the shows when you did address the question of an audio version of the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept. And so he would like for you, if you would, to answer that question there. Okay, do we have him back yet? Nope. No, okay. He would like for you to answer that question. Now, for those who will send me letters and say that I'm interrupting Mr. Fuller, trust me, that is just simply not the case. I'm asking you to bear with me because I will get letters, on this, and that's not what's happening. There's a lot of things that are going on here, and we're trying to speak over it so that we don't have to do that. Okay, got him now? Ready? Okay. The question was, Mr. Fuller, the second part, and again, you have answered this before on many shows, but he is asking this. It says, have you considered an audio version of your book?
Yes, people have approached me with, hello?
Yes, go ahead.
People have approached me with that suggestion, and I've turned it over to other people, and for a feasibility study, you might say, to see if that would work best for the general public. But I tend, at this point, I want black people, particularly in the Northwestern Hemisphere, and particularly people classified as black, to get in the habit of reading, because you're going to have to read something other than just Neely Fuller's book, because reading is a requirement. Lots of people are being taught to not read systematically. The white supremacists, at one time would punish a black person for trying to read. So we should try to read not only the English language, but many other languages. Why? Because languages are tools of communication.
Okay.
And we should know a little bit about reading. And read something, because it helps you to think, too, when you read.
Yes. All right, Dr. Neely, Mr. Fuller did answer your question. Do we have a phone yet, the line? No? Okay. All righty. Let's do this one here. Okay. This comes from Brother Darrell. He says, Mr. Fuller, don't really have a question, but but I got to say this. While we know you, Mr. Fuller, are the here with the program with Mr. Bobby, I got to say that the brother that calls in every week with a comment telling us to leave this country and calls Donald Trump, Mussolini, and Hitler needs to have his own show on Talktainment. So I would put him number 3 behind you two. I like it when he calls in and taking the time, but he does take time away from the rest of the show. But the things he is saying are spot on. So I hope he's listening and will consider, because a lot of people out there or out here like what he's going to say, even if it's the same thing every week. I think he was referring to the person who was speaking about the extermination. I think that's what he was. But anyway, while we have the remaining 8 minutes, Mr. Fuller, I'm required to ask you a question or information about your book and where we can get it and all the information that you feel is pertinent about it.
Well, briefly, just go to producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of the textbook workbook for victims of racism. And the book is tailored intentionally for the individual person who perceives him or herself to be a victim of racism, and has suggestions about what you can do each and every day when it comes to ideas that you can think about and suggestions for what you can say about what's going on, and suggestions about what you can do as an individual person each and every day about things that are happening that should or should not be happening, what you can do. Just some suggestions, and you can accept them or reject them. That's the way the book is written. If something doesn't make sense to you, then it doesn't make sense to you. So you don't use something that doesn't make sense to you. It's entirely democratic, you might say. And you might close the whole book after reading the whole book and decide that there's nothing in the book that you can use at all. Like one person said that when the book first came out many years ago, and said that to me. There was nothing in the book, period, that he could use. And I said, well, that's the way the book is written. If you look and see something that you can use it.
Yes.
If you can't use it, don't. And if you find nothing in there that you can use, then you don't need the book at all. So that's the way it is. And you can get it by going to producejustice.com.
Okay. Let's go to the Gmails. Oh, line number one? Okay, line number one. You are now on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead with your question.
Okay, Mr. Fuller, I guess this would be considered as a BGQ. You stated a couple of years ago, you said that people shouldn't be having interracial sex until the system of white supremacy comes to an end. And here's my question. I think a lot of times when black men have sex with white women, they're just looking for somebody to have sex with. They don't care if she's blue, she's yellow, she's Chinese, or whatever. She's got a nice body, and he hasn't, had sex in a while. He's just looking for somebody to have sex with. And I think that's different than white males having sex with black women when you go back and look at slavery. They used to go into the slave quarters and pick up black women and do whatever. So what would you say about all that?
Just that the non-white partner in the sexual, according to the code, according to compensatory counter-racist logic, sexual intercourse between white and non-white in the system of white supremacy victimizes the non-white partner. The non-white partner is the victim of child molestation. That's the equation. That's the logic. That is the truth. Whomever, whatever the reasons are, the non-white partner in the system of white supremacy is being...
Okay. Wow. Okay. This is being messed. Okay. All righty. All right. Anyway, we're going to go to the Gmails here, and hopefully we can get that back here. Bear with us here. New equipment and all kind of things. But anyway, don't worry about that. TalkTameRadio.com. We go where you go. And to get in contact with the show, you can do so by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, at gmail.com. Okay, we're going to get a question from Dr. Reeves here. He's simply asking this, and we will probably have to repeat this, but he says, Mr. Fuller, if a group of black people come together to negotiate with suspected white supremacists on behalf of all blacks, what is the correct process they should follow to ensure that black people are represented fairly? Apparently, he has had a situation where he saw something, or maybe he was a participant in something, and it raised a question, because remember, all problems are solved through questions and answers, and so he asked a provocative question. So here it is again, Mr. Fuller. He asked, if a group of black people come together to negotiate with suspected white supremacists on behalf of all blacks, what is the correct process they should follow to ensure that the people are represented fairly. Okay, Mr. Fuller?
Hello.
Okay.
Hello, I can't hear
You-
anything.
you can't hear?
A lot of static.
Okay, a lot of static here. I'll try to repeat this in the remaining minute or two we have. It says, Dr. Reeves says, Mr. Fuller, if a group of black people come together to negotiate with suspected white supremacists on behalf of all blacks, what is the correct process they should follow to ensure that the people are represented fairly?
When a group of black people do what?
Negotiate with suspected white races on behalf of other black people, what is the correct process they should follow to ensure that the people are represented fairly?
Oh, well, that's up to the people who do the so-called representing. That's just an agreement between the numbers too. The numbers of people. I mean, what people are you speaking for? You're carrying messages. By represent, you just mean carrying a message, representing a message. So you find out how many black people, which black people, are sending a message to some white people about whatever the business is that they're transacting. And it comes down to the numbers. You find out, well, I'm repeating what 12 black people said to me to say to you, sir. So by representing what they said they wanted or didn't want, usually something that they want or something they don't want. So I just say, well, here are
Talktainment Radio, Worldwide Sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio.